Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 24 of the Great Guitar Build of 2022 build. And this time we're going to finish off the F-holes and get the top ready for being glued onto the body. Okay, so that's both the F-holes cut out now, and I know I probably said I wasn't going to be covering this in too much depth in this episode, but I've got this one cleaned up quite nicely now. There's a little bit that needs doing to it, but most of it is done, and it occurs to me that it just looks a little bit chunky. The actual edge there is probably 6 or 7 mil thick, and to my eye it just looks a little bit too much. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on the inside of here and I'm going to thin some of it down on the inside, so we're left with maybe a 3 or 4 mil lip around the edge of there. And hopefully if I do it in such a way that it's angled back at the appropriate angle, you won't really be able to see that there's an extra thickness of material there. Now I don't want to kind of extend that thin area too far beyond there, because I think that would make the top kind of substantially weaker than it is, but a little chamfer round the edge probably won't. And in fact, kind of looking at it from an engineering perspective, that scoop might actually, weird as it sounds, add both a bit of rigidity but also make it less prone to snap or crack. So what I'm going to do is I've just got a marking gauge set up to an appropriate size, and I'm just going to run that around as best I can inside the F-hole. I obviously won't be able to reach all the way, but what I will be able to do is then join up where I have marked, and then we'll be able to do it from there. And there's kind of multiple benefits to doing this. Firstly, I think it will look a lot nicer. Secondly, with less material on both of these edges, it will be a lot easier to clean up and to get consistent, and I think that's the important thing, is that consistency. And thirdly, it will give me an opportunity to give you loads and loads of gratuitous spoon gouge action as I kind of cut that chamfer in. All right, we'll get this marked out. And that's the kind of back area of that scalloped out quite roughly at the moment. It's going to take a little bit of cleaning up, but we've still got to do the cleaning up on the rest of this half anyway, so that's not a big issue. I think with a bit of sanding That will look lovely, but it is also worth reminding yourselves that that will be, of course, on the inside of the build, so hopefully it will never get seen again. So that's what the back looks like. Let's get it off the bench and we'll have a look and see how it looks now from the front and see if that's kind of improved the look of it any. And I think you can see that looks a lot more delicate now. I think it just gives it a much better look, makes it look a lot more refined. Okay, so that's the two F-holes now cut in and all cleaned up. I did most of the cleanup with these, a couple of little things. So it's just two sticks basically. One's got some rough sandpaper on, which I took the bulk of the waste off with, and then I've just got some finer stuff on that one for cleaning up purposes. And you can see here it's all cleaned up really, really nicely. Put a tiny little bit of a radius around the edge as well, just to give it that kind of smooth look. And you might also notice as well that these little points here, I've actually scooped those down a little bit with a chisel, so they now lie below the surface of the guitar. And I always do that on these type of F-holes, just to kind of take that edge away from the chance of being caught on anything, so you're not going to snag your clothing or anything on there, potentially kind of damage the guitar or ruin your clothes or just get yourself tangled up in any way. Just gives it that kind of extra finishing touch. So really, really happy with the results of the F-holes. I think they've come out very nicely. They're the kind of shape I want. I think they fit in with the look of the guitar really well. And I think they'll help to make this top look really, really nice when we get some finish onto it as well. So that's all good. Now there's only a couple of little things that we need to do now before we can get the top glued onto the body. The main thing is we need to position and fit the controls. I'm not going to worry too much about the bridge, tailpiece and the pickups, etc. We can do that after the fact, but I prefer to get the holes cut for all the controls before the top goes on, so that I can make sure there's nice clean holes underneath, because that will just make getting the controls in place that a little touch easier. As you know, fishing them in through the F-holes or through one of the pickup routes is a bit of a nightmare, so we just want to make our job as easy as possible. So that's kind of it for this episode. Last thing to do is give a shout out to somebody, and this is another recommendation from Dane Nichols, and it's not actually for somebody who's in the Great Guitar Build Off, but it's another YouTube luthier who does some good work and apparently could do with a little bit more support. And it's a guy called Chuck Morris. So as usual, I'll put a pinned comment with the link in the description. I'll be back tomorrow when we can start to tackle all these controls and everything. So as usual, like if you've liked, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.